I'm Tiara. Today we will be making some apple cider donut muffins. Mostly muffins because I don't have a baked donut pan and I don't want to fry these. So I am going to bake them as muffins instead. And basically not too much difference between a fried apple cider donut and a baked apple cider donut, other than obviously the cooking method. And of course, a baked donut is less greasy than a fried donut, so we'll save a few calories on that, so maybe we can eat some more of the donuts, right? Balance things out. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll go through the ingredients and see what we've got. 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. We have 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. We have 3/4 cup of light brown sugar. I have a 1/2 cup of concentrated apple cider, or in my case, this is apple butter that I made. We'll go into that in a minute. We're gonna use 6 tablespoons of butter, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon plus a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, or 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of pumpkin spice. This is 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then for the topping, we'll use some more butter, and then we'll use some extra sugar to kind of give it that donut like sugary sweet coating. So let's go ahead and get started. So we've preheated our oven to 350 degrees. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cream together with either a stand mixer or a hand mixer the 10 tablespoons of butter, and the 1/4 cup of sugar, and the 3/4 cup of brown sugar. So the butter should be softened. That just means that you leave it out of the fridge on the counter for about half an hour, so that it's not cold and hard, and it'll blend easily with the sugar, and it's not completely melted either. Alright, so we're just going to cream this on medium speed. You'll want to do it for maybe 3 or 4 minutes until everything is well incorporated and the butter starts to get nice and fluffy. Cinnamon and my pumpkin spice. So as I said, when going through the ingredients, you can either use 2 teaspoons of cinnamon plus a 1/2 teaspoon of grated nutmeg, or I like to use 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of pumpkin spice. So all pumpkin spice is cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and so it's basically, you know, all of the good kind of things that go with apples, go with pumpkins, give you those nice fall flavors. But I know there's, you know, associations with pumpkin spice. You don't have to be a Becky to enjoy pumpkin spice outside of your latte or inside of your latte. So we're just going to add that in real quick. So now that this is all mixed in, I'm going to add the eggs in one at a time. So I'm just going to scrape down these sides to get some of this egg that's stuck on the side into the center. Alright, it's actually pretty mixed, so I'll go ahead and add the other egg. If you have trouble cracking eggs without getting the shell everywhere, I don't suggest cracking it straight into the bowl. Crack it into a separate bowl and then pour it in. Vanilla, which if you saw my last video, you know I completely forgot to add the vanilla in, but oops, so well. Eggs are incorporated. Now I am going to add my apple concentrate or apple butter. I decided to use apple butter because apple butter is just basically a bunch of apples, like super cooked down and blended, kind of like a super thick applesauce. So that's going to give you a nice appley flavor. Now I made this, and that's the reason I'm using it, because I need to use it up. But what you can do is you can take about 1.5 cups of apple juice and heat it slowly over the stove, like stirring it until it boils down, or the water evaporates, and you get a concentrate of about 1/2 cup. Or you can buy apple juice concentrate from the frozen section of the grocery store and use about 1/2 cup of that. You just don't want plain apple juice or apple cider, because you're not going to get enough apple flavor. You want it to be concentrated. So even though we're using 1/2 cup, you want that concentrated juice. So yeah, you can buy apple cider at the grocery store, cook it down, use a canned condensed apple juice. We've got the spices in here anyways, so you don't need to worry about juice versus cider. Or you can use some apple butter or even applesauce if you want to. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. And mix this in, and then we'll add in the rest of our dry ingredients. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the baking powder and the salt and put it in with the flour, and then I'm going to sift everything into the pan, or into the bowl that I'm using to mix the wet ingredients. Sifting it will just help it blend better. If you're using a stand mixer, you might not want to add all the flour at once because it might poof back up into your face, in which case you will take the baking powder, the salt, and the flour and then sift it into a separate bowl, and then you can spoon it in, maybe like half of it at a time or in thirds, and just mix everything until it's incorporated. And it doesn't take that long to do it. I'm just going to scrape down the sides again. You can see we've got a nice, smooth, thick batter. Now I have a muffin tin. Like I said, if you have donut baking tins, you can use those instead, but I don't, so muffin tin it is. I'm just going to give each one a little spritz. If you are making the muffins, you could use cupcake liners if you wanted to, but I think it's better to do it without the liners because it's going to make the outside crispy all over, kind of, you know, give it more of that donut feel to it. So now I'm just going to spoon some of this batter into each tin. these as even as possible. There are a couple that have a little bit less than others. So you should have enough for 12 donuts or 12 muffins. All right, so now these are ready and we're going to go ahead and put them in the oven. If you're doing the donuts, you're going to want to do about 12 to 15 minutes, I would say, but because the muffins are deeper and more dense, you're gonna wanna do 15 to 20 minutes for the muffin tins. So I will check these in 15 minutes. They're gonna be like a nice golden brown. A toothpick will come out of the center clean when they're done. And definitely check them after the lower number and then check them a couple of minutes later just to make sure, because you don't want to overbake them. So we'll check these in 15 to 20 minutes and then we'll take them out and we'll let them cool inside of the tin for about 5 minutes before we go on to the next step, which is to make the outside coating. We are out of the oven. They're mostly even size except for this one that kind of imploded on itself, and this one whose bottom kind of imploded on itself, but the others look fine, and I'm sure these will be good for taste testing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of butter that I have melted down, and I'm just going to brush the butter over the top of all of these. If you're doing the donuts instead of muffins, you'll brush one side and then we'll dip it in sugar, and then you'll turn them over and do the same thing with the other side once that's dried, and that's the easiest way to do it. With the muffins, we're just dusting the top. So just take your brush, give it a nice generous helping of butter. Yes, even the weird imploded ones, because why not? So the more surface area you have, the more sugar you're gonna need. This is about half a cup of sugar. It should hopefully be enough for your donuts if you're doing donuts, and it'll definitely be more than enough for the muffins. So I'm just gonna take these, dip the tops in. And if you like, even though there's already cinnamon and nutmeg and other goodness inside of the donuts itself, you can mix in a teaspoon of cinnamon into the sugar coating if you like as well, and do it that way. Now you can, as you can see, underneath the wire rack I've got a little pan, and that's just so that if any of the sugar spills over, it makes it easier to clean up. And that's it. We're done. Dan, would you like to try come try a donut?
Yes.
Donut muffin? Muffin donut?
That would be great.
Give you one of these weird ones that like exploded in on itself, but they should still be fine.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a nice apple flavor.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say not as good as the donuts when we go apple picking and get apple cider donuts, but those are also fried.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, you're going out and you're having a nice day at the apple orchard and then you're eating donuts. So I think it's contextual as well. But these are pretty darn good.
These are really good. They're very like apple, cinnamon, both in taste and what you're expecting, and like texture with the sugar and everything. So
All right.
it's really good.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, you heard it here first. They're really good. So thank you for joining me to bake these apple cider donut muffins. If you bake some, let me know. Send me a photo. I'd love to share on my Facebook page or my Instagram. And we'll see you next time. I think next time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to bake, but we're also going to try to do some decorating type stuff. So we're going to make some miniature pumpkin cakes that actually look a lot like pumpkins. So it should be pretty exciting. And I hope that you'll join me next time, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.